Hello, hello, hello. What's going on, everybody? It's your favorite astrologer, Mel of Divine Feminine Works. And as always, I hope that this video finds you well and in excellent spirits. If you're new here, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. This channel is everything tarot, astrology, spirituality, and manifestation. So, if those are the things you like, if those are the things you love, if those are the things you want to learn more about, don't forget to hit that subscribe button as well as that notification bell so you'll always be notified when I come out with new content. And speaking of content, head over to Instagram and hit that follow button. I've got loads of excellent daily content. Plus, I go live over there every Thursday night at 8:30 Eastern Standard Time for live tarot readings by sign. All right, so head over there, follow so you don't miss any of that great stuff. All right, so as you can tell by the title of this video, this is the Astro Forecast for May 2022. And I just, first of all, let me just get this out of the way. I am like exhausted right now. So if I seem a little low energy, that's probably why. Okay. That's number one. Number two, I can't believe that it's already May. Like, I feel like we just started the new year and everything is going by so quickly. But, I ain't mad at it. It is what it is. At least time is moving forward. We've got some good stuff ahead. May is going to be one of those months that's going to be pretty busy in terms of astrological energy, but I'm sort of getting ahead of myself. Let's get into some housekeeping rules first. All right. So I'm going to start by talking about the general astrology for the month, and then I'm going to break it down by rising sign. Okay. So this is one of those videos that's pretty long. All right. And if you're anything like me, typically, even when I watch live videos, I sort of put it on, and sometimes it's just playing in the background until I hear something that sort of catches my interest. So, in an effort to sort of help you guys out, anytime you hear this sound, you'll know that I've changed signs. Okay. So that is your cue to listen up and hear what sign I'm up to, because again, that lets you know that I'm changing signs. All right. And as you come into the room, please hit that thumbs up, introduce yourselves. This is very early on in my YouTube career, so there aren't that many people joining my lives yet, but this is meant to be a community space where you can ask questions, get all the information you need, and sort of get yourself right in terms of the astrology. All right. So hit that like button on your way in, introduce yourself, ask any questions you'd like. And yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. Oh, and one last thing. So if you're new to astrology, right? Or even if you have been studying astrology for a while and you find it to be a little bit confusing, it's once you get into it, it's like going down a rabbit hole, right? And there's a lot of information, a lot of technical terms to learn. It can all be a little confusing and overwhelming. So, in an effort to help you out, what I've done is I've created this thing called the the Astrology Basics cheat sheet. And basically, it tells you everything you need to know about the planets, the houses, the signs, and the aspects. It's the quick and dirty information of everything you need concerning astrology so you can get yourself right and start learning. Okay. It's about 11 pages, not too long, but gives you everything that you need to know. Again, it's the planets, the houses, the signs, and the aspects. And if you're interested in getting a copy of this cheat sheet, the link is going to be in the description box below. So check it out, download it. It's really great. I've gotten so much positive feedback from it. And again, it's just a quick and dirty on everything you need to know for astrology. So it's really good. All right. So without further ado, let's get into it, because again, this is going to be kind of a long video, but chock full of information. All right. So this month is, like I said, a month that's going to be pretty busy because there's a lot going on. So we've got three planets changing signs. Of those planets, all of them are going to be entering their home signs, which means that their energy is going to be super potent. Plus, we have a full moon lunar eclipse mid-month. And our all-time favorite is happening this month as well, Mercury retrograde. All right. So there's a lot of shifting, a lot of movement, a lot of potent energy, and a bit of reflection. Okay. So it's going to be sort of a month where we move forward, but move back at the same time. It's like in moving forward, we're sort of reminiscing about the things that are important to us, things that we may have thought about in the past and sort of dropped by the wayside. So it's a month of, again, moving forward as well as self reflection and remembering some of the things that have been important to us, particularly ideas, because Mercury is going to go retrograde in its home sign of Gemini, and Gemini rules communication and ideas. All right. So there's going to be a lot of that going on in terms of things we thought of in the past. Communications from the past may be popping back up, but again, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's just take everything step by step. All right. And then just one more thing, we have the full moon lunar eclipse in Scorpio. Well, at the time of this filming, we're about to hit the solar eclipse in Taurus. All right. So I don't know about you, but I've definitely been feeling this eclipse energy so far. It's been pretty potent. It's been pretty, it's just been really, I've been pleasantly surprised. I'll say that much. I feel like there is a lot of good things that are coming, and I'm starting to see like the breadcrumbs leading up to those things. I think that a lot of things that are very fated are happening as well. I know, at least in my life, I'm experiencing some things that just feel like destiny, right? So it's an exciting time, but also, I don't know if it's the energy, of the solar eclipse that's making me so tired, but I'm also feeling very like drained a little bit. So let me know. Let me know in the comments if you're feeling kind of drained or how this solar eclipse energy is affecting you so far. All right. So without further ado, let's get into the month at hand. All right. So let's take an overview of what exactly is going on. All right. So first up, we have Venus moving into the sign of Aries. Thereafter, we have Mercury retrograde in its home sign of Gemini. After that, we have Jupiter entering into Aries. Okay. Then mid-month, we have the lunar eclipse in Scorpio. Then Gemini season officially begins once the sun moves into Gemini. Mercury is still going to be retrograde, and it's going to retrograde back into the sign of Taurus. Mars is going to move into its home sign of Aries. Venus is going to move into its home sign of Taurus. And then we close out the month with a new moon in the sign of Gemini. All right. So, like I said, lots going on, lots of great stuff. So, let's take it one thing at a time. All right. So, first up, we've got Venus moving into Aries on May 2nd. All right. So Venus has spent quite a bit of time in its sign of exaltation, Pisces. Okay. And once we start the month, on the first, Venus will still be in Pisces, but then on the second, she will move into the sign of Aries, where she gets very sassy, very bold, very sure of herself. Right. Venus in Aries is all about shooting your shot. It's all about going after relationships and things that you value very like aggressively. In terms of relationships, Venus in Aries is like straight up no chaser, like very blunt, very direct, can be very sexy. Venus and Aries, well, Venus and Mars together are really, the planets of sex. But Venus and Aries can be very consumed with sex. Not necessarily a bad thing. And just a lot of fiery energy. In terms of money and the things that we value, Aries is very much an energy of directness, ambition, drive, motivation. So when it comes to things like money, I think that a lot of us are going to be very driven, very focused, and trying to get from point A to point B in the most direct way possible. So this is going to give us, this is sort of an energetic start to the month in terms of relationships. This is, Aries is also a cardinal sign, so it's all about starting something new. So this may be a time where you feel like really pushed or motivated to start a new relationship or secure the bag and try to get your money up and things like that. It's almost like you're going to have a battery in your back when it comes to those things. Okay? So definitely an interesting and energetic way to start the month. And Aries is Aries as a sign is one of the major players of this month, because we're going to have a stellium in Aries of 3 planets. So a lot of bold energy this month, a lot of direct energy this month. But also it's, and as I'll explain as I go further, it's really going to behoove you to be extremely forward, extremely direct. I don't know, I feel like I've said direct like 20 times so far. But Being direct, being forward, being bold, being impulsive are really going to pay off for all of us this month because Venus and Jupiter are going to be in Aries. So it's that positive energy in relation to those things. So you're going to want to be proactive about certain things in your life, depending on where this is falling in your chart. All right. So that was the first thing we have. Next thing we have is Mercury going retrograde in its home sign of Gemini on May 10th. Mercury retrograde, the cult classic. Everyone hates it. Everyone is like super fearful. And, in a way, I'll say it's good because it shows that astrology has become a lot more mainstream than it was before. I remember when I first started studying astrology, nobody was talking about Mercury retrograde. Now it's like everyone has it like programmed in their phone. So everyone is really on that astrology vibe, which I love. But in any event, Mercury is going to be in its own time Gemini, so its energy is going to be super potent. This is all about lots of ideas, lots of communication. Mercury in Gemini is very busy. It's this really busybody energy. But when a planet goes retrograde, the energy of that planet is directed inward rather than outward. So, what that means is that in terms of ideas, in terms of communication, we're all going to be doing this on a very internal level when Mercury goes retrograde. It's about remembering, reminiscing, revisiting a lot of things, okay? And depending on where it's going down in your chart, that's where you're going to be experiencing this, okay? And of course, the usual Mercury retrograde shenanigans. You have electronics breaking down, transportation being delayed, miscommunications, misunderstanding, the typical Mercury retrograde shit, all right? But because it's in Gemini, because it's in its home sign, things may be a little more wonky than usual, okay? So really, whatever you do, double check your communications. You're going to want to make sure that you keep your electronics in good working order. Typically, people will tell you not to buy any electronics or a car or anything like that during Mercury retrograde because you're probably just going to have to send it right back because it usually malfunctions. That's for some people, not others. But if you're willing to test that theory, then by all means, go ahead. But yeah, we can expect that. And that's going down again on May 10th. All right. So Mercury is going to be retrograde for most of the month. So we can expect all of that goodness throughout the month of May. All right. Now, next up, we've got Jupiter going into Aries as well. And this is going down that same day Mercury goes retrograde, which is May 10th. All right. So far, we've got Venus in Aries. Now, Jupiter is going to be joining the party as well. And these two planets are known as benefic planets. They are the planets of positivity. Venus is all about love, good feelings, beauty. Jupiter is about expansion. It's about abundance. It's about good luck and good fortune. So wherever Aries is in your chart, especially once Jupiter makes its way into Aries, that's where you can expect a lot of abundance and good luck. It's like finding a four-leaf clover, right? So let's say your 10th house is Aries, right? And the 10th house is the house of career. This may be a promotion. This may be more money coming in if you're a business owner. This could be just good luck happening to find you at work, right? So Jupiter in Aries is very fortuitous, particularly in starting new things, because again, Aries is a cardinal sign, meaning that it's concerned with starting and initiating things, giving you that drive and that push to actually start something new. So there is a lot to be gained this month, and I'm going to repeat this probably at least 20 times. A lot to be gained by starting something new. Depending on where this is going down in your chart, you're going to want to start something new because it's like the heavens and the cosmos are really going to bless you with some positivity. All right. All right, so next up, we have the full moon lunar eclipse in Scorpio. And this is sort of the star of the month. This is coming off the heels of the solar eclipse in Taurus, which will happen based on the timing of this video. It will happen on April 30th. But on May 16th, we have a lunar eclipse, okay? So this is when the moon is full. And as much as I would love to go into the science of what an eclipse really means, I can't because I don't know. Or I should say, I know, but I don't know well enough to really explain it. So we're not even really concerned about the scientific aspect of it, but more so the spiritual aspect of it, right? So, eclipses are the universe's way of rearranging things in our lives. Solar eclipses happen at the new moon and they eclipse things in. Lunar eclipses happen at the full moon and they eclipse things out, right? Lunar eclipses can really snatch your edges depending on what's going on in your life. It's a way of the universe to clean up things, get rid of things that maybe we've been holding on to for dear life, things that we wouldn't remove from our lives but for the universe doing it for us. So it's the universe's way of really cleaning things up, okay? And if we're talking about Scorpio, we're talking about some really deep shit, okay? Scorpio is all about repressed emotions. It's about depth and substance. It's like, if I had to sum up Scorpio in a sign, it's like the darkest portion of the ocean. And then in that darkest portion, there's like a fire burning, if that makes any sense. But that is Scorpio in a nutshell. So when it comes to a lunar eclipse in Scorpio, a lot of us are going to be extremely emotionally triggered. A lot of the things that we are hiding under the surface, it's like a band aid is going to be ripped off and the wound is going to see the light of day, right? So it's going to hurt a little bit emotionally, but not too much. And you always have to remember Scorpio is a sign of transformation. So anything that you experience with Scorpio is really meant to transform you, to make you into a better person, to sort of lead you toward your destiny, right? And that's also the theme of eclipses. It's supposed to take you to where you need to go. Now, the South Node is currently in Scorpio, and the South Node concerns itself with karma. It concerns not necessarily karma, but things that we've come into this life with that we need to relinquish, things that we were comfortable with that now we need to let go of in order for us to move toward our destiny, right? So, a lot of what's going to happen around the eclipse is going to be very faded, the purpose of which is to get you to where you need to go, all right? And it's definitely to put you on the right track and in the right direction. So it's going to be filled with emotions. It's going to be really tough. Hello, Allison. It's going to be a little tough, but ultimately it's for our own personal transformations, all right? And lunar eclipses, like I said before, are when the moon and the sun are opposite. Okay. That's the whole essence of a full moon. And so this lunar eclipse is going to highlight imbalances in our lives. It's going to show us where we're living in extremes and what needs to be balanced in order for us to get to where we need to go. All right. So, again, probably pretty emotional, but definitely nothing we haven't been through before and nothing you can't handle, going into the future. And also, what I love about eclipses more than anything is that you don't have to do anything. You know, Nowadays, everyone is so caught up in doing rituals, right? New moon rituals, full moon rituals. It's actually advised that you don't do any rituals during eclipses because the energy is so powerful and so potent. Now, I'm not even going to say that because I can't speak to that. But what I can speak to is that I love not having to do anything and having the universe do it for me. So if there's ever a time where I can just sit back with my popcorn and just watch how things unfold, the eclipse time would be it, all right? And I advise you to do the same because regardless of whether you do anything or not, the universe is still going to do what it needs to do for you. So keep that in mind during this eclipse. All right. So that was the lunar eclipse in Scorpio. Next up, we have the sun moving into Gemini on May 20th. Okay. And this marks the beginning of Gemini season. Gemini season tends to be really busy. Gemini energy, which is ruled by the planet Mercury, is all about this busybody energy. It's lots of communication, it's lots of socializing, it's lots of ideas, all of those things. And that's sort of emblematic of the beginning of summer, right? At least here in the Northern Hemisphere. Summer tends to be really busy. You tend to socialize more, right? Because, it's warm outside, or depending on where you live, it's warm outside and, things, everyone's sort of taking a relaxed nature to life, right? Gemini energy is also very sort of childlike. It's very curious. It's very active, right? So this is the time where you want to indulge in your curiosities. It's also a time when you want to do research, where you want to gain knowledge with respect to a particular skill, where you want to just know things, because just like kids always ask why, right? That's sort of the energy surrounding Gemini. It's always like, well, why this? Why that? Well, let me look into that. Let me talk to this person. Maybe they've got something to tell me about this. That's pretty much Gemini in a nutshell. All right. And that's going down on May 20th. Okay. Thereafter, Our favorite Mercury retrograde is going to go into Taurus on May 22nd. So, back on the 10th, Mercury first went retrograde in the sign of Gemini. And by the time we get to the 22nd, Mercury is going to make her way back into Taurus. Okay. So, Mercury was actually in Taurus last month. It's going to revisit Taurus this month in May. Okay. So, you're going to want to pay attention to where Taurus is in your chart because this is where there's extra emphasis this month, right? Last month you had emphasis when Mercury was there. This month you're revisiting some of those things. Okay. And of course, Mercury retrograde is all about revisiting. But if we're talking about Taurus, we're talking about things that we value. We're talking about money matters. We're talking about certain relationships. All of those things are pretty much governed by Mercury in Taurus. Okay. And again, you're going to want to revisit these things. Certain people from your past may revisit certain conversations, certain money issues. If you've lost something, like something that's actually tangible, don't be surprised if it pops up while Mercury is retrograde in Taurus, because Mercury retrograde is all about revisiting things, and Taurus is all about tangible things. All right. So certain things that you may have lost, or certain things that you may have not been using, may become useful to you now, and you may decide, hey, let me pick this up again and try this, or let me work on this, or you get the point, right? But in any event, Mercury is going to make its way back into Taurus on the 22nd, where it will remain for the remainder of the month. Okay. Mercury is not going to turn direct until June. So this month, like I said before, it's all about revisiting. It's going to be all about remembering and sort of reassessing things in our lives. All right. Next up, we have Mars, and Mars is going to make its way into its home sign of Aries on May 24th. So we started out with Venus in Aries, then Jupiter went into Aries, and now Mars is going to make its way into Aries, and that is the home sign of Mars. So that Mars energy is going to be super potent, okay? Now, Mars in Aries is all about getting up and going. It's all about having a battery in your back. It's about being physical. It's about being combative. It's about being aggressive, especially towards the thing that you want and the things that you're passionate about, okay? Again, like I said, it's going to be putting a battery in your back and get you really motivated to get up and move and do something and start new things. Again, because Aries is a cardinal sign, so it's all about starting new projects. So wherever Aries is in your chart, that's where you're not only going to experience a lot of positivity, but you're also going to experience a lot of motivation to start something new. Okay, so definitely pay attention to your own chart and where Aries is located. All right. Next up, we've got Venus entering her home sign of Taurus on May 28th. All right. Venus in Taurus is just beautiful. It's concerned with beauty, it's concerned with money, and it's concerned with holding on to those things. Venus is the natural ruler of Taurus and Libra, but she expresses herself differently. In Libra, Venus is very much about fairness, equality, diplomacy. It's all about how we deal with people in a very equalized sort of way. But when Venus is in Taurus, that's when she loves all the nice things. She loves all the luxurious things. That's like going for a spa day, buying a Louis Vuitton bag, eating comfort food, sleeping all day. That is the essence of Venus in Taurus. And so that energy is just beautiful. It's very lethargic. It's a little lazy, not concerned with doing work, but it's also very much concerned with not just material things, but things that we value. This is where and when you're going to examine things like your self esteem, your self worth, the value that you place and assign to the things in your life. For instance, Venus in Taurus is all about setting a criteria for the people that you date or the people with whom you're in a relationship. So let's say you're looking for someone who's 5'10". Let's say you're a woman and you're looking for a man who's, let me not say 5'10". Some people will say that's real short. I like short dudes, but that's another story for another day. Um, you may be a woman who's looking for a man who's like 6'2", who drives this, who has this, who's running the bank, who has this degree, that. That is the essence of like Venus in Taurus. Okay. So again, it's not just about superficiality. It's also about the things that we value and the value that we assign to the things and people in our lives. Okay. That's Venus in Taurus. That's going down on May 28th. And that's going to last for about a month. Okay. So Venus will remain in Taurus, I want to say till probably 3/4 of the way of June. All right. And then finally, last but not least, we have the new moon in Gemini on May 30th. Okay. So we started out with, well, basically, the beginning of the month, we still had that solar eclipse in Taurus energy. Mid month, we had the lunar eclipse in Scorpio. And now we end the month on a calmer note with just a regular new moon in the sign of Gemini. So, new moons are all about new beginnings, planting new seeds, and setting new intentions. And with this being in the sign of Gemini, you're going to want to plant seeds of knowledge, plant seeds of communication, plant seeds of ideas. So, this is the new moon where you're going to think of a master plan, where you're going to speak to people, perhaps new people who can help you learn new things. All right. New moon in Gemini is very cerebral. It's all about your brain. It's all about your brain and your throat chakra. So this isn't necessarily about setting an intention to get something. It's more about getting in the right frame of mind so you can get the things that you want. Basically, long story short, new moon in Gemini is pretty much all about getting your mind right. All right. And that's how we end the month. So again, lots going on, a lot of shifts, a lot of potent energy, but again, nothing we haven't been through before. I think it's really good. And yeah, so now I'm gonna break it down by sign. Of course, this is by rising sign. So you're going to want to pay attention. And again, anytime you hear this noise, know that I've changed signs. All right. So first up, we've got Aries. All right. So Aries rising. The houses that you are going to feel this energy in the most this month, right? The houses that are going to be emphasized for you are your first house of self, your second house of money, your third house of ideas, and your eighth house of resources, okay? So you've got a lot of personal emphasis because the first, second, and third houses are concerned with yourself and your surroundings. So, pretty much that's where you're going to see most of the activity this month, okay? Oh, what happened? Oh, I see what happened. Sorry. I need to make the little sign come in so you guys know what I'm talking about. All right, so in your first house, you're going to have that Aries stellium of Venus, Jupiter, and Mars. Okay. So this is a lot of charisma. This is a lot of attractiveness. People are going to be very attracted to you. I feel like a lot of you are going to be looking really good. A lot of people are going to be sexually attracted to you. All right. So if you are trying to have one of those months where you're real quiet, you're real low key, I don't think this is going to be the month for you because I feel like you're going to be extremely charismatic, very magnetic, alluring, sexy. Like people are really going to find you irresistible, okay? And you're going to be bold. You're going to feel like you're going to act like how you feel. I feel like feeling beautiful, feeling really like feeling yourself is going to allow you to really start new things because you're going to be very confident. I guess long story short, your confidence is going to be like through the roof this month, okay? And you're going to be feeling like yourself since there's going to be a lot of Aries energy. Okay. And also, this is where you're going to receive some good luck and good fortune. So, if you have personal goals, aspirations, even body image things, I feel like you're going to experience a lot of positivity and good fortune in that arena of your life. All right. Next up, we have an emphasis of your second house. And this is where the sun is going to be come during Taurus season, that's where the sun is. Then Venus is also going to move into that sign. Plus, Mercury retrograde is going to be in there. Okay. So, when it comes to money this month, I feel like there's going to be a focus on that definitely during the beginning of the month. And then I feel like when it comes to luxury shopping values, a lot of those things are going to be a major theme for you as well. But with Mercury retrograde in your second house, you're going to be rethinking these things. Perfect example, let's say there was something that you wanted to buy, a big ticket item. I feel like Mercury retrograde is going to sort of remind you of that, all right? Maybe re-spark that interest in you. In terms of values, some of you may be looking at past relationships, whether friends, lovers, whatever, and thinking about the values and what you value in someone moving forward. Okay. So there's going to be a lot of emphasis on rethinking money matters and matters concerning values in your life. Okay. Then, excuse me. Next, we have an emphasis on your third house of communication and ideas. And that's where the sun will move into once we head into Gemini season. Mercury retrograde will be there and the new moon in Gemini. Okay. So I want to say the second half of the month, definitely when the sun moves into Gemini, it's going to be very busy. A lot of communication, lots of ideas. Don't forget to memorialize them because, you may be thinking a lot, but you may also be a bit forgetful. You're going to be revisiting past ideas with Mercury retrograde. Perhaps there are conversations from the past that you had with siblings, with neighbors, with community members that come up again. Maybe some people who live in your neighborhood who you haven't seen in a while may just automatically pop back up. Electronics are going to go haywire, especially for you because Mercury retrograde is going down in your third house of communication and ideas. So you're definitely going to want to double check everything, make sure everything's in working order, and also leave extra time for transit, okay? Because there's transportation delays, things like that. All right. So it's about learning something new or maybe even taking a short distance trip. Okay. So perhaps towards the end of the month, you guys may take a weekend trip or a day trip somewhere. Regardless, that's pretty much how that's going to play out. And then finally, you have an eighth house emphasis with the lunar eclipse in Scorpio going down in your eighth house. So this is really the dichotomy between shared resources and personal resources. I feel like the eclipse is going to shine a light on shared resources, perhaps a resource that you were dependent on that comes from someone else, may be taken away, maybe eclipsed out, maybe changed in a very permanent sort of way. And it's going to make you focus and regain balance in terms of your personal assets and your personal resources. If you, let's say you're married and you're depending on your spouse for income, the lunar eclipse can very easily take away that spousal income and make you focus on getting a job or opening a business. That's sort of how that works, okay? So it's really a dichotomy between their stuff and my stuff. And I feel like the lunar eclipse is going to set everything in motion so that you can have balance in those two areas of your life. All right. So that was Aries. Now we are going to make our way to Taurus rising. All right. So, Taurus rising, for you, the houses that you have the most emphasis on this month are your 12th house of the unknown, your first house of self, your second house of money, and your seventh house of relationships. All right. So let's get into it. So basically, you start out the month with an emphasis on your 12th house. And this is where that stellium of Venus, Jupiter, and Mars is going to occur. So 12th house is a house of the unknown because it's like spirit, right? You cannot see spirit. We don't even necessarily comprehend spirit fully, but we know that it's there. The 12th house is all about faith. It's all about spirituality. It's all about confinement too, and karma and things of that nature. So, with these three planets in your 12th house, a lot is going to be going on behind the scenes that you're not going to be aware of. The best way I can describe this is like your spirit team is really just rearranging everything in your life. Plus, with the presence of Mars in your 12th house, it can indicate like spiritual warfare and your spirit team really going to battle for you, and you're not necessarily aware of it, but you may know that it's happening, but you may not, right? But regardless, a lot is going to be going on behind the scenes, but whatever is going on behind the scenes is going to be really positive because of the presence of Venus and Jupiter in your 12th house. All right. So during this month, it's in order to tap into this energy, it's best for you to meditate, it's best for prayer, it's best for quiet time alone and even sleep. So you may find, particularly with the presence of Mars in your 12th house, your dream state is going to be so vivid. For some, you may have trouble sleeping. You may be energized more at night. For others, you may be extremely sleepy and there's a lot going on in your dreams, okay? But the beginning of the month, I must say, is going to feel very dreamy, is definitely going to be a time for rest and for recharging your batteries, okay? Then we have an emphasis on your first house because we're going to have the sun while it's still in Taurus. Venus is going to transit into your first house by the end of the month. And then we have Mercury retrograde towards the end of the month as well. So at that time, anytime you have planets in your first house, it's always a focus on self. And with Venus in your first house, you're really going to like it because much like Aries, you guys are going to feel so good. You're going to look good. People are going to be attracted to you, okay? And it's really going to shine brightly because the sun is still going to be in your house, in your first house as well. So it's all about appearance. It's all about yourself. It's all about your body, your attitude, your outlook on life. And with Mercury retrograde in your first house, this is going to be revisiting personal goals. It's going to be revisiting, maybe there was a look that you had a while ago, right? Maybe you did your hair a certain way. Maybe you dressed a certain way. You might revisit that. It's also about remembering certain things about yourself and revisiting past ideas. So that emphasis on the first house again is all about self. It's going to be about being attractive. It's going to be about feeling beautiful, but it's also going to be about remembering things that are important to you, okay? Then there's also going to be an emphasis on your second house of money and material possessions because we're going to have the sun in there once it moves into Gemini, plus Mercury retrograde, plus the new moon in Gemini. Okay. So this is going to be revisiting money matters, but particularly ideas. Okay. For you, whenever it comes to money, it has to start with an idea because Gemini is your second house of money. So communication, ideas is where you really make your money, okay? And so when Mercury is retrograde in Gemini, this is the time that you're going to want to revisit a lot of your past business ideas, a lot of things that you learned, skills that you learned in the past, because that is going to be the key to making money going forward, okay? So you're really going to want to take some time to do that. Mark my words, okay? It's also going to give you the opportunity to make new money with the new moon. So you're going to want to plant new money seeds, perhaps try to get new streams of income, a new job, perhaps, maybe start saving or implementing a new financial plan. All of those things are going to be ripe for the new moon. Okay, so remember that. And then finally, we have an emphasis on your seventh house of relationships with the lunar eclipse. And again, the lunar eclipse is a full moon, so it's the sun in one sign and the moon completely opposite. So for you, the lunar eclipse is going to shed a light on your relationships. And this is your committed relationships, your business partnerships, your contracts, things of that nature. And it's very much we versus me. And is that in balance for you? If you have been focusing all your energy on relationships and obligations and been neglecting yourself or losing yourself in relationships, the lunar eclipse is going to snatch your edges and make things balanced again. Okay. So if you find that you lose a contract falls through, maybe you break up with someone, or it doesn't have to be that dire, but some sort of change in your relationships is really the universe's way of getting you to balance yourself and your relationships. Okay. It's also going to be a time of self-reflection. Anytime we're thinking about relationships, we're inherently thinking about ourselves too. So it's definitely going to be a lot of energy for you in that department. Again, and it's nothing that you have to do. You sort of just have to sit back and see what the universe has in store for you. And ultimately it's going to work out. It just may hurt a little bit in the process. All right. All right. So that was Taurus rising. Next up, we have Gemini rising. All right. So Gemini rising for you, May 2022 has an emphasis on your 11th house of friends, your 12th house of the unknown, your first house of self, and your 6th house of work and health. All right. Those are the areas of life that are going to be emphasized for you this month. All right. So starting out with the 11th house. We're going to have that stellium of Venus, Jupiter, and Mars in Aries, which is going to light up and energize your 11th house. Okay. So, this is all about friends. This is about being jovial. This is about being social. This is about forming new groups, joining new groups, going after different aspirations. You know, the 11th house also covers goals and ambitions. So it's really about dreaming big and wishing upon a star. And with Mars in your 11th house, in its home sign of Aries, you're going to feel super energized to do this. Like whatever lifelong goal you've had, whatever huge aspiration you've been dreaming of, Mars in Aries is going to get you to take action toward it in a very major way. Perhaps you may even involve friends in helping you achieve those goals. But regardless, you're going to be very social when you have this emphasis on your 11th house. And it's best to allow your friends to help you, especially if you let your goals be known, if you communicate with people what you're trying to do. It's really going to benefit you to do that because I feel like people are just going to come to your aid like, you know, like moths to a flame, to be honest, especially because Venus and Jupiter are going to be there and they're going to give you this good fortune, this great positive energy. All right. So, word to the wise, if you have a goal that you're trying to achieve, talk to your friends about it because I feel like they're definitely going to help you. Okay. Then you have an emphasis on your 12th house of the unknown because the sun is going to be there during Taurus season. Venus is going to be there once she moves into Taurus, and Mercury is going to retrograde back into Taurus. So, this is all about spirituality. This is about resting and relaxing. So, until Gemini season, it's going to be time for you to sort of power down. It's going to be time for you to wind down and just rest and recharge your batteries. The season before our solar return is always marked by rest. That's when you rest, that's when you reassess your year, and that's when you like recharge your batteries so you can enjoy your season and your solar return when it comes up. And that's exactly what you're going to be doing in the beginning of the month. There's also going to be this energy of self reflection, this energy of meditation. Perhaps many of you are going to revisit your spirituality, revisit your faith, what you believe in. Some of you may just think about the past a lot because the 12th house also covers karma. So some of you may be examining the karma that has come your way, or maybe you're thinking about the karma that may be coming your way. But regardless, that 12th house emphasis is going to give you a lot of self reflection, particularly with Mercury there. Some of you may even find that you revert back to a religion or a spiritual practice that you used to do, again, with the presence of Mercury retrograde in your 12th house. Next, we have a first house emphasis when the sun moves into Gemini. It is your season, it is your time to party, it is your time to be you and, you know, do you basically. Okay. This is when you're going to set new personal goals because it's your personal new year. Again, with Mercury retrograde in your sign, also, there's going to be some self reflection, thinking about yourself, thinking about things in the past that were important to you, you know, usual self reflection stuff. This is also going to be new ideas. The new moon is going to be ripe for setting new plans in motion, for thinking of new plans for the future. So, at least the second half of the month is going to be very self reflective, but very future oriented. So, when you have that emphasis in your 12th house, like I was mentioning before, it's backward looking. But I feel like that first house emphasis is going to be forward looking. Okay. So a lot of you are going to be doing a lot of thinking, which suits you just fine because you guys are the thinkers of the zodiac. Okay. So you're going to be doing a lot of what comes naturally to you this month. And then finally, there's going to be a sixth house emphasis with the lunar eclipse in Scorpio. This is going to highlight work and health, okay, and any inadequacies you've been experiencing on those fronts, okay. It's about the dichotomy between your physical body and your spiritual body. So maybe it's not your physical body that needs a checkup, maybe it's your spiritual body that needs a checkup, okay. And also, the lunar eclipse is going to ask this particular question of you. And the question is, who are you serving? Are you serving yourself? Are you serving others? And why are you doing it? I feel like the lunar eclipse is going to open your eyes with respect to that question and really get you to think of that answer long and hard. Okay. Again, it might be a little emotional given that it's a full moon plus it's going down in Scorpio, but I really think it's going to be eye opening one way or another. All right. So that was Gemini. All right, so now we are up to Cancer rising. All right, Cancer. So for you, May 2022 is going to have an emphasis on the following houses: your 10th house of career, your 11th house of friends, your 12th house of the unknown, and your 5th house of fun. All right, so let's get into it. So, like I mentioned before, emphasis on your 10th house. And this is when you'll be experiencing that stellium of Venus, Jupiter, and Mars in Aries. Okay. So this is all about business relationships, starting new businesses. Any businesses or work related things started during this time are going to be like blessed by the universe because of the presence of Jupiter. Okay. And the presence of Mars is going to have you going after business or career related goals extremely aggressively. I feel like you're going to be very blunt and direct in your approach, which also might lead to conflicts and arguments or even fights with people at work, with superiors, with employers or employees. Could even be if you own your own business and let's say you have a YouTube channel. It could be with subscribers, it could be with followers on Instagram. All of those people are the types of people that you could really get into it this month because of the presence of Mars in your 10th house. So you're going to want to be careful. I'm not going to say you're going to want to be careful about what you say, but what I am going to say is that you're going to want to be careful in your approach. If you come off too strong, if you come off maybe too direct or too blunt, that could really rub people the wrong way and could cause conflict. Okay. So yeah, so then next, you have an emphasis on your 11th house of friendship and goals. And the sun during Taurus season is going to be in there. When Venus transits into Taurus, she will be in your 11th house. And then you're going to have Mercury retrograde in your 11th house as well. This is all about groups. This is all about networking. This is all about friendships, goals, and ambitions. Okay. It's also about dreaming of the future, but also revisiting the past, particularly with Mercury retrograde, revisiting past goals, past ambitions. Mercury retrograde in your 11th house is also where friends from the past may pop up, where groups that you were associated with may suddenly come back online, or goals that you had way back in the past finally come back to the forefront of your thoughts. Okay. Next up, we have an emphasis on your 12th house of the unknown. And this is when the sun moves into Gemini. You're also going to have Mercury retrograde in there, and the new moon in Gemini is going to be in your 12th house as well. So, this is going to be about resting and recharging as well, because during Gemini season, you have to rest and recharge to be prepared for your season, Cancer season, which starts in June. Okay. This is also about self reflection, it's about karma, and it's about new spiritual goals with the presence of the new moon in your 12th house. Okay. So it may be faith based, it may be religion based, it may be spirituality based, but I see you maybe. If you're someone who's really into church and you've sort of lost your way for a while, I see the new moon in Gemini giving you an opportunity to get back into that, particularly with Mercury retrograde being in there too, like revisiting a past religion, a past spiritual practice, things like that. Okay. And then finally, you have an emphasis on your 5th house with the lunar eclipse in Scorpio. This is going to highlight your 5th house of fun, romance, children, creativity. The dichotomy that the lunar eclipse is going to point out is the difference between standing out and fitting in. Maybe you've been apart from the crowd for a long time. You've been doing your own thing and it's kind of made you isolated. I feel like the lunar eclipse is going to move things around so you find your tribe, you find people that you align with, you find a group with whom you can relate to. All right, so it's balanced. As much as we don't want to be entrenched in a group and not being able to think for ourselves, we don't always want to be a lone wolf either. And I feel like the lunar eclipse is going to show you just that and move things around without you having to do anything so that that balance can be restored. All right. Okay, we are making our way along quite nicely. Next up, we've got Leo. All right. Leo rising. So this month, you have an emphasis on your 9th house of travel, your 10th house of career, your 11th house of friends, and your 4th house of home and domestic affairs. All right, so let's get into it. So we start out with an emphasis on the 9th house, and the 9th house covers long distance travel, higher education. It covers things like legal matters. it governs the higher mind, okay? Whereas the third house covers facts, knowledge, and technical stuff, the ninth house covers knowledge gained through experience. So it governs wisdom. So with that Aries stellium, okay, we have Venus, Jupiter, and Mars that's going to be in your ninth house. This is about long distance relationships or relationships with people who are far away from you or at a distance from you. Um, if you're in school, things are going to go really well in May with the presence of Jupiter. Like if you're taking upper level courses, you're in college or grad school, like school is going to go really well for you. It's also a great time to plan a long distance trip. I feel like everything is just going to fall into place beautifully. If you can travel at that time to a destination you've never been before, like if you're taking a, lavish vacation to Bali or something like that, that's also going to go really well with the presence of Jupiter, okay? Now, with Mars, this is very prone to legal battles. So, if you are in a legal situation, if you are starting a legal situation, be prepared for a fight because I see that being very contentious with the presence of Mars in your ninth house. But otherwise, I think that you're just going to receive blessings from blessings from afar, perhaps again with the presence of Jupiter. But that whole area of life is going to be highlighted, particularly at the beginning of the month. All right. Then we move on to the 10th house of career, and that's where the sun is while in Taurus. That's where Venus will transit when she goes into Taurus, and also Mercury retrograde is going to be there. So, of course, the 10th house covers business and your public image, so your reputation, your social standing, things of that nature. So, with the 10th house emphasis, it's all going to be about business relationships. It's going to be about money. It's going to be about revisiting past business matters. So, whether you own your own business or whether you are working for someone in your career, things related to your job or career from the past will likely resurface. Business ideas that you had, ideas to start new projects, maybe, may come back around. Okay. Then we have an emphasis on the 11th house. When the sun moves into Gemini, Mercury retrograde is going to be in there, and also the new moon in Gemini. So, this is the house of friends, goals, and ambitions. And all of those things are going to be highlighted. You're also going to be revisiting those things with Mercury retrograde. Okay. So, this is friends coming back around, goals from the past that you may want to revisit, all that kind of stuff. The new moon is also going to give you the ability to set new intentions. So if you're looking to find new friends, if you're looking to find your tribe, if you're looking to dream big, if you're looking for a new aspiration, the new moon in Gemini is going to allow you to do those things. Okay. And then finally, we have the lunar eclipse in Scorpio going down in your fourth house of home and domestic affairs. So this is going to highlight your home, your family, your lineage, or property that you own. And basically, it's going to be the difference between your home life and your work life. And the lunar eclipse is going to set everything in motion to balance those two. If you've been neglecting your career for your home life or vice versa, I feel like the lunar eclipse is going to not throw things in your path, actually take things away in order to restore balance in those two areas of your life. All right. All right. So that was Leo. Now we are making our way to Virgo rising. All right. So for you, Virgo, May 2022 is going to emphasize your 8th house of resources, your 9th house of travel, your 10th house of career, and your 3rd house of ideas. All right. So let's get into it. So first up, we have an 8th house emphasis, and that Aries stellium is going to highlight that. So it's Venus, Jupiter, and Mars in Aries, which is your 8th house. This is going to highlight intimate relationships, power struggles within relationships, and other people's resources. Okay. So the presence of Mars is really going to make things, I'm not going to say hostile, but it can make things a little volatile in your intimate relationships. If you depend on someone for resources or you share resources with other people, you're going to want to be mindful because arguments regarding those things can definitely pop up with Mars in your 8th house. But I also feel like the presence of Venus and Jupiter in your 8th house are going to make these things very beneficial. So for some, this is where you may find someone may be giving you money. You may be getting an inheritance. A new income stream is opening up to you, and that income comes from someone else. Intimate partnerships may be a lot more peaceful and harmonious. issues of control. If you've had power and control issues in the past, I think that the presence of Jupiter and Venus will sort of pacify them. But if you haven't addressed them, I feel like the presence of Mars could really bring them to the boiling point. So again, you're going to want to be very mindful with how you deal with your intimate partners, because again, conflict, like things can pop off at a moment's notice. All right. Next up, we have the ninth house emphasis, and the sun in Taurus is there, Venus is there, and Mercury retrograde. So this is all about traveling, higher education, long distance relationships, and the presence of Mercury retrograde will have you revisiting these things. Perhaps you have a long lost pen pal. I mean, I don't know who the hell has pen pals anymore, but and I'm showing my age clearly. Someone who lives at a distance from you may pop back up. Higher education. So if you have been looking, maybe this is the time when you go back to school. Okay, maybe you have to take a break for some reason. Now it's the time for you to go back to school, back to pursuing that degree, those kind of things. Perhaps there was a trip that you had wanted to take. Let's say there was a trip you wanted to take during COVID, you weren't able to take it. If you can, the best time to take it would be this month, especially if it's a long distance trip to a place you've never been before. You're going to want to think about doing that because it would be really beneficial to you, especially with the presence of Venus there. All right. Next up, we have a 10th house emphasis, which is the house of career and public life. And this is all of that Gemini energy. We've got the sun in Gemini, Mercury retrograde in Gemini, and the new moon in Gemini. So your career and your work life is going to get very busy towards the end of the month once the sun moves into the sign of Gemini. This is creating new work opportunities, revisiting some old work opportunities, and just moving along. Like I feel like when it comes to business ideas, work projects, all of that stuff, I feel like you're really going to be doing a lot of that again, particularly towards the end of May, right? And then last but not least, we have the lunar eclipse in Scorpio, which is going down in your third house. And this is going to highlight your immediate vicinity, okay? It's going to highlight your neighborhood, your community. It's going to highlight your relationship with siblings, extended family members. All right. It's also about knowing certain things, okay? So what the balance that's going to need to be established with this lunar eclipse is basically what you know versus what you believe, or what you've learned versus what you've experienced, okay? And basically, your knowledge is going to be put to the test in one way, shape, or form. And again, it's just the universe's way of taking whatever you don't need out of your life, eclipsing it out of your life, and restoring balance in that area, okay? So it should be pretty interesting, going to be very cerebral as opposed to something, I think, like physically happening, okay? If that makes any sense. All right. We are making our way through this, thankfully. All right. Next up, we've got Libra rising. All right. So, Libra rising. In May, these are the houses that are going to be emphasized. First, your 7th house of relationships, then your 8th house of resources, followed by your 9th house of travel, and finally your 2nd house of money. All right. Nice, interesting mix. All right, so your 7th house of relationships is going to be lit with that Aries stellium of Venus, Jupiter, and Aries. I'm sorry, Mars. Okay, and this is gonna feel really good to you because Libra is the natural placement of the 7th house. 7th house is relationships. You guys, the relationship sign. So a lot of the first half of the month is going to feel very natural to you and actually very positive. It's all about your commitments, your partnerships, your contracts, but the presence of Venus and Jupiter are going to make it extra positive, extra harmonious. And you're just going to have good luck and good fortune in that area of your life. But keep in mind the presence of Mars, particularly that Mars is in its home sign of Aries, fights can pop off at a moment's notice. So there can be a lot of aggression, a lot of bluntness, which can lead to conflict and fighting in your relationships and perhaps with business partners. So be mindful of that. But otherwise, relationships are looking really good for you this month. Okay. Then next up, we have the 8th house emphasis where the sun will be there during Taurus season. You're also going to have Venus and Mercury retrograde in there. So the 8th house is all about transformation, intimacy, and shared resources. And so that's where your focus will be for the first half of the month. Okay. And then with Mercury retrograde in your eighth house, it's going to be revisiting those things. Perhaps there is a loan that needs extra attention or that needs a second look. Perhaps there is an insurance policy, same thing. Or maybe an intimate partnership that you had in the past is going to resurface. Either way, those are the things that you can expect with that eighth house emphasis. Next up, we have a ninth house emphasis with the sun, Mercury retrograde, and the new moon in Gemini. And the ninth house is all about long distance travel, higher education, legal matters, etc. So this could be planning a vacation. This is just doing coursework in college or grad school, a legal situation, or you may be revisiting all of these things with Mercury retrograde. Okay. Again, just like Virgo, you guys may have had a trip that you couldn't take because of COVID. Now is going to be the best time to do it, particularly towards the end of May. All right. And then finally, the lunar eclipse in Scorpio is going to highlight your second house of money and material possessions. So, the balance that's going to need to be achieved with this lunar eclipse is the balance between your stuff and their stuff. Perhaps you're someone who's fiercely independent, okay? And you have a partner, but you never lean on them for money. And not lean in a bad way, but just have someone help you. Perhaps you're very independent, or perhaps you're just storing your own stuff and you're being a little selfish. The lunar eclipse is going to highlight that and is going to eclipse the things out of your life in order to restore balance in your life in that area. Well, I should say in those areas. Basically, like I said before, it's their stuff versus your stuff. And how do you neutralize that? Well, the lunar eclipse is going to answer that question and might do it in a very grand fashion. But of course, it's always for our highest good. Okay. So keep that in mind towards mid month. Okay. So that was Libra. Next up, we've got Scorpio rising. All right, Scorpio. So for May, you guys have an emphasis on your sixth house of work and health, your seventh house of relationships, your eighth house of resources, and your first house of self. All right. So we start out with an emphasis on your sixth house of work and health. This is where that Venus, Jupiter, Mars, yeah, Mars and Aries. I keep getting the two confused. Venus, Jupiter, and Mars are going to be in Aries, and this is going to highlight and emphasize your sixth house of work and health. So this is your work relationships. This is your health matters. I feel like health matters are going to improve with the presence of Jupiter in your sixth house. I feel like work relationships are going to be a lot more harmonious, a lot more synergistic. Okay. Um, the sixth house also covers service, okay? And with Mars in your sixth house, this may have you doing service, but for selfish reasons. Mars is very much concerned with the self. It's a very me centered planet, right? And even though you're doing service for others, which is what is governed under the sixth house, it's almost like you're doing it just to make yourself feel good, or you're doing it from money. You're not doing it from the kindness of your heart. You're doing it for very selfish reasons. Okay. So you're going to want to be cognizant of why you're serving who you're serving. Okay. Also, with the presence of Mars, this can spark a lot of conflict at work, perhaps with customers, clients, or coworkers. So again, you're going to want to be mindful of how you move during this month, because Mars is all about action, right? And sometimes action under Mars can be very blunt, very direct, no holds barred, okay? And if that rubs people the wrong way, that can definitely incite arguments, conflict, and fights, okay? So be mindful of that. Next up, we have an emphasis on the seventh house, particularly during Taurus season. So that first half of May, your relationships, your commitments, your contracts, etc. And the Sun, Venus, and Mercury retrograde are going to be in your seventh house. So this is about revisiting relationships. Of all the signs, you are the sign. You and let me see. You and Capricorn are the only two signs who, like, when they say Mercury retrograde, like your exes come back, you two are the only two signs where that's actually true, because you have Mercury retrograde in your seventh house of relationships, and Capricorn has Mercury retrograde in their fifth house of romance and lovers. Okay. So in May, if you find that an ex comes back, burn, blame Mercury retrograde. All right. Next up, we have an eighth house emphasis when the sun moves into Gemini. So the sun, Mercury retrograde, and the new moon are all going down in Gemini, and that's going to emphasize your 8th house of intimacy and shared resources. This is about intimacy, transformation, again, shared resources. With the presence of the new moon, you can plant the seeds for those things. Especially if you're looking for money from other people, you're going to want to set those intentions at the new moon, okay? You're also going to be revisiting things from the past. So still, Mercury retrograde is hitting your 7th house of relationships and your 8th house of intimacy. So again, you guys are the one sign that really have a case of the ex. Like your ex is going to come back. They're going to, call you for whatever, going to want to rekindle the flame. Like there's definitely a thing for you this month. So be wary of that. If you're not trying to have that, then you know what to do. All right. And then finally, we have a first house emphasis with the lunar eclipse in your sign of Scorpio. This is going to highlight everything about yourself and maybe bad habits that you have going into relationships, because the lunar eclipse is going to try to strike a balance between yourself and your relationships. Okay. So it's that me versus we. And have you been really focused on you? Do you have habits that are inhibiting you from having a successful relationship? I feel like the lunar eclipse is going to answer those questions, and it's going to remove anything in the way of restoring balance between those things in your life. Okay. All right. We're making our way. We're making our way. I have to be honest. Like I am like trudging through this right now. If my eyes look sleepy, it's because I am. But we are almost done. We only have 4 more signs to go. All right. And I don't know if I'm really saying that more for me or for you, but either way, we have 4 signs to go. All right. So next up, we've got Sagittarius rising. All right, Sag. So for you, May has an emphasis on your 5th house of fun, your 6th house of work and health, your 7th house of relationships, and your 12th house of the unknown. All right. So let's get into it. So first, we have an emphasis on the 5th house. This is that Venus, Jupiter, Mars, stellium in Aries. 5th house is all about fun. It's all about romance. It's all about creativity, self-expression, and children. So those are the things that are going to be highlighted. And with the presence of Venus and Jupiter, all of those things are going to be super positive, very harmonious. So if you're someone who's been looking to express yourself creatively, maybe you have a hobby that you want to take up, I feel like the presence of Venus and Jupiter in your 5th house is going to make that super possible, make it super possible, and add a lot of positivity and abundance to it. Okay. You're also going to have a lot of good luck with those things. With the presence of Mars in your 5th house, this indicates an emphasis with respect to sports, with respect to physical activity. So perhaps working out. But this also can breed contention with romantic partners or children. So if you have children or if you have a romantic partner, you may want to be wary of what you say and how you move, because conflict is extremely likely with those people. All right, next up, we have an emphasis on the 6th house of work and health. So when the sun is in Taurus, Venus is in Taurus, and Mercury retrograde is in Taurus, they're all going to emphasize your 6th house of work and health. And so it's those issues that are going to be emphasized: work, health, work relationships. Money that you make from your job is also going to be highlighted during this time. And with Mercury retrograde, you're going to be revisiting those. Perhaps there's a job from the past that comes back up. Perhaps there's a health issue that resurfaces. Okay, those are sort of the ways that that can play out. Next up, we have a 7th house emphasis when the sun moves into Gemini, Mercury retrograde is in Gemini, and the new moon is in Gemini. And the 7th house is all about relationships. So this is going to be about your relationships, your commitments, and your contracts. With Mercury retrograde, you're going to be revisiting those things. So you guys also, to a certain extent, you guys may have exes that come back. You may have contracts that fell through in the past that may be up for renewal now, or may be the time to really get them off the ground. And with the presence of the new moon, if you're looking to take an existing relationship to the next level, if you're looking for a commitment just to begin with, new business opportunities, new contracts and obligations, all of those intentions can be set at the new moon in Gemini on the 30th, okay? And then finally, we have a 12th house emphasis with the lunar eclipse in Scorpio. The 12th house covers the unknown. It covers faith. It covers rest and recharging yourself. So the lunar eclipse may find you being especially sleepy, a lot of dreams, a lot of vivid dreams, spirituality, karma, reflection. I feel like it's going to be the balance between your spiritual body and your physical body. Whichever one you haven't been paying attention to enough, the lunar eclipse is going to very much call your attention to it. Okay. So, again, it might be a little jarring because it's going down in your 12th house, and 12th house can be a house of sensitivity as well. But again, it's all to restore balance, and it's going to eclipse out those things that you don't need in order to have that balance. All right. That was Sagittarius. And now we are up to Capricorn. All right, Capricorn rising. This month has an emphasis on your 4th house of home, your 5th house of fun, your 6th house of work and health, and your 11th house of friendship. All right, so we start off with a 4th house emphasis, and the 4th house is all about home and domestic affairs. And with Venus, Jupiter, and Mars in Aries, it's all going to emphasize this area of your life. So this covers home, family, property, your lineage, okay? You're going to have a lot more harmony and positivity in those areas, especially if you're into something like real estate. I feel like real estate business deals may go really well in the month of May. Um, your relationship with family, all of that stuff is going to get some positivity. Mars may also put a battery in your back to start new things related to that. So if you're looking to buy a home, if you're looking to purchase property, if you're looking to start a real estate business, March, May is going to be a really good time for you to do that. But keep in mind that Mars is also going to let me not say allow. Mars is going to make things a little contentious with family, particularly your parents. So you're going to want to be mindful of how you speak to them. You may be a little too bold, a little too blunt, which could cause arguments. But because of the presence of Venus and Jupiter there, I feel like any fights that could be had are probably going to be pretty minimal. I don't think it's going to be any big blow up. I think things are going to be mostly harmonious, but little fires may start here and there. All right, next up, we have a 5th house emphasis during Taurus season. When the sun is in Taurus, when Venus moves into Taurus, it's going to emphasize your 5th house, and Mercury retrograde in Taurus is going to emphasize your 5th house. 5th house is the house of fun, it's the house of creativity, it's the house of kids, it's the house of romantic partners. So I feel like those relationships, particularly your relationship with children or your relationship with romantic partners, are definitely going to be highlighted during that time. Also, having fun is going to be a thing, right? That's always, anytime you have a 5th house transit, it's time to sort of, you know, not be so serious and have a little fun, be a little childlike, okay? But also, with the presence of Mercury retrograde, you may be revisiting past romantic partners. Just like I mentioned before, you and Scorpio rising are the two signs, including Sagittarius too. You guys are the signs that are going to have exes coming back with Mercury retrograde. So be mindful of that, whether that's something that you welcome or you don't. Okay. Next up, we have a 6th. Oh, that's you? Okay. All right. Next up, you've got a 6th house emphasis. When the sun moves into Gemini, Mercury retrograde goes into Gemini, and you have the new moon in Gemini. The 6th house is all about work and health, okay? So this is work and health matters, service, efficiency, your job. All of those things are possible, especially at the new moon. Like, you can set intentions for those things. But also, with the presence of Mercury retrograde, you're going to have a chance to revisit some of these things. So if you've had a health matter from the past, that may come back up. A job from the past may come back up. Skills that you've learned or used on the job may also, particularly in past jobs, may also come back up and may be of value or use to you at this time. All right. And that's going to be towards the end of May. And then finally, we have an 11th house emphasis with the lunar eclipse in Scorpio. So the 11th house covers friendships, it covers goals and ambitions. And the balance that the lunar eclipse is going to try to achieve is the balance between following the crowd and standing out. Perhaps you've been part of the crowd for too long. Perhaps all of your ideas and identity are wrapped up in some group that you belong to. I feel like the lunar eclipse is perhaps going to remove you from that group, dismantle the group even, in order to get you to stand on your own 2 feet and stand apart from the crowd. All right. So whatever happens, it's really going to achieve balance between your groups and yourself. All right. Also, it's going to highlight perhaps following your heart more. Again, if you've been wrapped up in in some sort of group ideology, I feel like the lunar eclipse is going to force something to happen in order to get you to listen to and follow your heart. I feel like that's really important for you to remember, okay? All right. That was Capricorn. Now we are up to Aquarius rising. All right, Aquarius. So for you in May, you have a emphasis on your third house of ideas, your fourth house of home, your fifth house of fun, and your 10th house of career. All right. So first, third house emphasis. This is that Venus, Jupiter, Mars, stellium, and Aries. Third house covers siblings, your immediate vicinity, short distance trips, skills, neighbors, your neighborhood, all of that kind of stuff. And I feel like all of that stuff, everything in your immediate vicinity is probably going to be a lot more peaceful, a lot more harmonious, a lot more fortunate. I feel like you're going to experience good luck in your immediate vicinity. I think if you're looking to learn a new skill, I think the best time to do it will be towards the beginning of the month because I feel like you're going to be a lot more receptive to learning. But this may be the I lost my train of thought for a second. Oh, yes. With Mars in your third house, this is all about aggressive thoughts and aggressive communication. I feel like you probably are going to be very blunt in what you say. Even the way you think about things or even the way that you talk to yourself may be very aggressive, okay? And your thoughts may be concerned with getting ahead, achieving something, being motivated and driven by a desire almost obsessively. Okay. So you're going to want to monitor your thoughts because they can get the best of you with this house emphasis. Okay. Next up, we have a fourth house emphasis during Taurus season when the sun is in Taurus. Venus will be in Taurus and Mercury retrograde will be in Taurus. Now, the fourth house covers home, family, domestic affairs, and property. Okay. So, all of those things are going to be the focus during Taurus season at the beginning of the month. I feel like things are going to be very harmonious, particularly at the end of the month when Venus transits into your fourth house. And with Mercury retrograde, you're going to be revisiting things from the past with respect to your home, your family members, your lineage. Some of you may be inclined to do ancestor work. Some of you may be doing DNA research. All of that kind of stuff is definitely Mercury retrograde in your fourth house activities. Okay. Next up, we have a fifth house emphasis during Gemini season when the sun was into Gemini. Mercury retrograde is going to be there and the new moon in Gemini. So it's all about fun, romance, kids, creativity, passions, following your heart. I feel like with Mercury retrograde, you're going to be able to revisit things that you really loved in the past that maybe you let go of. Things or hobbies that, you use to express yourself with, you may revisit those things again. And with the presence of the new moon, you can set intentions for those. Like, I feel like it's perfect. Let's say you're someone who used to paint, right? And you haven't painted in years. And Mercury retrograde really gets you thinking about it again. The new moon in Gemini is going to like align the cosmos so that you can actually set that intention. And in the next couple of weeks or even months, you're going to find yourself painting on a regular basis. It's pretty much how that transit is going to work. All right, and then finally, we have a 10th house emphasis with the lunar eclipse. 10th house is all about career and public life. The lunar eclipse is going to highlight your public life and your versus your private life. Perhaps things are going on in your public life, like your work life, your career, if you're an entrepreneur, your business, and you've just been paying more attention to it, more so than you've been paying attention to and taking care of home. Lunar eclipse is going to take out everything that you don't need so you have balance in those two areas of your life. All right. All right. Finally, we've got Pisces rising. All right. Last but certainly not least. All right, Pisces. So for you, the areas of emphasis this month are going to be your second house of money, your third house of ideas, and your third house of ideas, your fourth house of home, and your ninth house of travel. So we start out with your second house. emphasis, that Venus, Jupiter, Mars, stellium in Aries. So money is going to be a thing this month, but I feel like it's going to be very positive with the presence of Venus and Jupiter. This is sort of getting a windfall of money, more money coming in, good luck, good fortune, blessings when it comes to money, all of that good stuff. Okay. And I feel like when it comes to money matters, the presence of Mars is going to have you aggressively pursuing them. So if you have a business, if you want a new income stream, anything new that could generate money for you, I feel like you're going to be amped to do so, particularly in the beginning of the month. Okay. So use that time wisely. If you want to pick up an extra job, if you want to start a savings plan, I feel like you're going to really have the motivation to do it on like a serious level. Next up, we have a third house emphasis while the sun is in Taurus. Venus will also be in Taurus, plus Mercury retrograde will make its way into Taurus during the month as well. And this is your immediate vicinity. This is the house of ideas, communication, siblings, neighbors, and your immediate vicinity. So during this time, some of you may be taking a short distance trip. You may find that communication ramps up. It may be just a very busy time for you in the beginning of the month. Lots of emails, lots of text messages, business transactions, speaking with friends, socializing, all of that good stuff. And with Mercury retrograde, you're going to be revisiting those things. So this may be revisiting conversations you've had in the past with siblings or neighbors or old neighbors popping back up, maybe who have moved out of the neighborhood. Okay. Revisiting transactions from the past, especially if you're someone who does business or sales. Third house also covers writing, and it covers reading and stuff like that. So maybe some of you may be revisiting things that you've written in the past. Perhaps if you're a writer, maybe you may be reading old books that you have that have just been lying around and maybe that you just happen to stumble upon. All of those things are possible with that third house emphasis. Okay. Then next up, we have a fourth house emphasis when the sun moves into Gemini. Mercury retrograde is also going to be there, plus the new moon in Gemini. And the fourth house covers home and domestic affairs. So that is what's going to be highlighted by the end of the month. Okay. So this is home, family, property, lineage, etc. Mercury retrograde is going to have you revisiting all of those things. This may have you sort of digging in your family's closet, looking through, old stuff belonging to your family. Again, you could be doing DNA research, ancestor veneration. All of those stuff are possible with Mercury retrograde in your fourth house. If you're a property owner, you may have to go through paperwork from the past related to your property or your home, things of that nature. Okay. And then finally, we have a ninth house emphasis with the lunar eclipse in Scorpio. This is going to cover long distance travel, upper level coursework, legal situations. It also covers spirituality, wisdom gained through experience, things that are far away from you, etc. Okay. And so this is sort of the dichotomy between what you believe versus what you know. Okay. It's all about knowledge. But which knowledge are you tapped into more? Are you more tapped into your higher mind? Or are you more concerned with facts and details? I feel like the lunar eclipse is going to ask that of you and is going to remove anything that doesn't allow you to have a good balance of the two. It's also the difference between far and near. The ninth house is about things that are a distance from you. The third house, where the sun will be, is where things are close to you or in your vicinity. So maybe your location is going to change. Maybe you've been too far away from the people that need you, or maybe it's time for you to venture away from where you've been. It's also the difference between an open mind and a closed mind. Okay. And again, whatever doesn't allow for balance is going to be removed by the lunar eclipse. Okay. So keep that in mind. All right, my friends, it is time. Not it's time. I'm done. This has been, I think, one of the longest lives I've done. But again, there's so much going on this month. Hopefully, you guys got some valuable information from this, whether you're catching it live or you're, hitting it on the replay. Hopefully, May is looking clear to you. You know what you need to do, what you need to avoid, what seeds you need to plant, and what you need to pay attention to. Okay. It is my sincere hope that you guys got some valuable information from this video. All right. Thank you so much for rocking with me. Thank you so much for tuning in. I wish you a beautiful month ahead. Can't wait to see what is in store. I think it's going to be a good one. Thanks so much. Take care.